A Florida detention center known as Alligator Alcatraz has ignited a fierce debate. Its very existence is now at the heart of environmental and legal controversy. At the core of this dispute is a question that has left everyone guessing. Who is truly responsible for running this high-profile facility? And did officials sidestep crucial environmental reviews in their rush to build it? An 8-hour hearing intended to address environmentalists' serious concerns wrapped up on Wednesday, but instead of producing clarity, it only deepened the confusion. The government's legal team had originally planned a robust defense, bringing in numerous state and federal officials to testify regarding the facility's construction and operations. But things didn't go as planned. The presiding judge, U.S. District Judge Kathleen Mary Williams, ultimately only heard from 5 witnesses, all of whom were selected by the environmental advocates who brought the lawsuit. The central issue is whether those responsible for Alligator Alcatraz bypassed laws requiring a thorough environmental impact assessment before construction, raising the stakes for the center's future as a migrant detention site. Plaintiffs insist that skipping this step should legally prevent the facility from detaining anyone. Yet, during the hearing, most of the testimony focused on local wildlife conservation efforts, particularly the breeding patterns of endangered Florida panthers, rather than pinning down exactly who oversees the facility's day-to-day operations. Judge Williams couldn't contain her frustration, at one point stating flatly, "I have still no idea what is going on." This confusion prompted the judge to schedule additional hearings, with more environmental experts set to testify, and State and Department of Homeland Security DHS witnesses following in the coming days. Witnesses painted a vivid picture of the disruption caused by the center. One local, Jessica Namath, described an unending parade of vehicles. She estimated 30 to 40 each hour, rumbling onto the property, many of them heavy construction trucks. "It's just a constant flow of machinery and people," she said, hinting at the profound impact on the neighborhood and nearby wilderness. Adding weight to environmentalists' concerns, Florida wildlife expert Randy Couts explained that Alligator Alcatraz was erected in the very heart of prime panther territory. With only about 120 to 230 adult Florida panthers remaining in the wild, and recovery plans aiming to triple that figure, any encroachment on their habitat poses real danger. Couts stressed that panthers must have enough undisturbed land to breed and expand. His alarming estimate: the center's construction and activity could make nearly 1/5, 19% of the core panther area unusable, thanks to noise, light pollution, fencing, and traffic. This could put the species at risk, he warned. And this is the part most people miss. Protecting endangered animals goes far beyond simple numbers. It involves preserving delicate, interconnected ecosystems. But here's where it gets controversial. Tom Homan, the so-called border czar, railed against the judge handling the case, dismissing her as a radical intent on shutting down all operations. When pressed on what the administration would do if the center had to close, Homan doubled down, insisting, "There are no issues at Alligator Alcatraz. I've seen it. I was there." His comments reveal just how polarizing the debate has become. One side sees an environmental emergency, the other dismisses it as political theater. Another angle that fuels debate is the lack of public participation in key decisions. Amber Crooks, who enjoys hiking and stargazing in the Big Cypress Preserve, testified that she never got the chance to comment on the project before the center was built. She emphasized her deep connection to the region and its wildlife, saying, "I would have participated in any opportunity." Environmental advocates argue this omission violated federal law, hinting at even deeper legal trouble for the facility's managers. The question of who controls Alligator Alcatraz remains murky, a true jurisdictional gray area. State officials claim the center was fully funded, built, and managed by Florida, making it exempt from the National Environmental Policy Act, NEPA, the primary law invoked by opponents. But State Representative Anna Eskamani contested this, testifying that DHS was the driving force behind its creation, and that state officials repeatedly said they were following all federal and state guidelines, with ICE regularly inspecting the site. The center's gray zone status only fuels suspicion. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis says the state is simply carrying out federal immigration directives and expects full reimbursement for the costs. Yet when pressed in court, both state and federal officials failed to clearly identify who is ultimately responsible for overseeing day-to-day operations. Isn't it troubling that the chain of command for such a significant site is still a mystery? Shouldn't accountability be ironclad before such a project moves forward? In an attempt to challenge Representative Eskamani's credibility, Florida's legal counsel pointed to her vocal opposition to the facility online. At one point, she had even labeled it a $500 million anti-immigrant grift. Eskamani readily admitted the remark, further highlighting the political tensions swirling around Alligator Alcatraz. Yet environmental impacts aren't just theoretical. Eve Samples, who leads the non-profit Friends of the Everglades, told the court that the damage was already visible. Miles of barbed wire, blinding floodlights, and heavy vehicle traffic have all transformed the sensitive area. Florida's lawyers pushed back, arguing that the facility sits on an old airport runway where hundreds of flights already took place daily. But does high activity on a neglected airstrip justify building a massive detention center in an environmentally vulnerable region? The broader context adds more complexity. Constructed in mere weeks, near the Dade Collier Training and Transition Airport, Alligator Alcatraz can house over 3,000 detainees in a network of tents, trailers, and makeshift buildings. It also borders land leased to the Miccosukee tribe, which includes villages, a school, hunting grounds, and important cultural sites. The tribe recently joined the lawsuit, fearful that their community and traditions are at risk. This is the part most people miss. The facility's footprint affects not just wildlife and habitat, but also people and cultures with deep connections to the land. So what's your take? Should public safety and immigration enforcement efforts override environmental concerns and local participation? Or do you believe skipping legal safeguards has set a dangerous precedent? Is Alligator Alcatraz a vital tool or an environmental disaster in disguise? Does it balance national interests or trample on the rights of communities, human and wildlife alike? Let us know where you stand in the comments. It's a debate with no easy answers, and your voice matters.